Luno, the fastest, easiest way to buy Bitcoin. If you're just getting into crypto, it's the perfect place to start. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Heilpern show, powered by Icon Plus Capital, the VC firm. So joining me today is a really exciting guest. It is Sean Culkin, the NFL tight end, who said that he is going to turn his entire salary into Bitcoin. Sean, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's really good to have you. Before we jump in, I do just want to say a quick thank you to all my sponsors, because if it wasn't for them, this wouldn't be possible. So this is sponsored by BlockFi. You can actually get amazing interest rates on your crypto, your stable coins, whatever it is. And there is a description for you somewhere. And this month, it's actually sponsored by Compass Mining. Sorry. So Compass Mining are really interesting. They're actually the company that makes Bitcoin mining accessible for everyone. You just buy your machine, pick a hosting facility, and let them do the work. So if you do want to start mining some Bitcoin, then head to compassmining.io. It's really cool because mining Bitcoin right now is pretty impossible. So there you go. So thank you to them. So Sean, welcome to the show. I've been so excited to speak to you. The first thing actually I wanted to ask you is, can you explain to me what a tight end is? Because I'm English and I don't know any of this stuff.
Yeah, sure. So let's start with offense and defense. So tight end is on offense, and it's kind of a combination of a receiver who has to catch the ball and an offensive lineman who is like bigger guys that are blocking, protecting the quarterback or creating holes for the running back. So a tight end is somebody that pretty much has to do both. So they're pretty very multi-dimensional, have to know the run game, the pass game. I like to think they're the smartest guys on the field, most versatile, but it's fun because you got to be fast, but then you have to be strong.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of represents what I know of you so far. You seem to be quite diverse. I know that you have a finance background, which we'll get into. But before we do, I'd love to know a little bit more about you personally, your background, where you come from. I'd love to hear it all.
Yeah. So I'm from Indian Rocks Beach, Florida. It's about 30 minutes south from Tampa. And I was born and raised there my whole life. I have one brother who I pretty much tried to do everything he did growing up. He ran track, played football, and basketball. Those are the three sports I did. And just over time, I initially was a basketball prospect. I kind of thought that was my path to collegiate sports. And my senior year, I decided to play football in college because I kind of just had more of the mentality to get bigger and stronger. And I also in 6'5", and basketball nowadays you have to be like 6'8".
Did you say you're 6'5"?
Yeah, 6'5".
Damn, that's insane.
But that is
crazy.
But that's so short for basketball.
I know.
I was the shortest guy on my team. I was on the Adidas team for Florida, and I was one of the shortest guys. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and just saw more of a upside in football. So I went to University of Missouri. And that was the first year they were in the SEC. And that was a really cool experience. And from there, just, kind of like, as you said, I started studying finance. I realized that football could end at any point in time. I tore my MCL, and luckily it wasn't anything serious, but I knew that injuries do occur in the sport. And I don't want to look back and reflect on my time in college, getting a free education and not take advantage of that. So I switched to finance and just fell in love with it immediately. It was the first time where I had a passion equivalent to my interest in football, and just immersed myself in the readings and understanding the lectures, and kind of was using football to almost set up a career after football. And at one time I wanted to do Wall Street. So I was, okay. So I was, I was an equity research analyst for an insurance firm, and sitting on Bloomberg, crunching Excel spreadsheet numbers, and handling the endowment money for the business school, and studying for the CFA level 1. So I'm going like 80, 90 hours a week on top of being a D1 athlete, and figured, whenever football ends, I'm already ready for that. And through just over time, I slowly just navigated more and more to Bitcoin.
I think that's really important. You mentioned having a backup plan, but See, it's not so much a backup plan because I think backup plans have really bad connotations. It's kind of like,
Yes,
I'll have that in case I fail. So it's not, I don't mean it like that. It's more like life is so unpredictable. And, you know, there's so many different things that can happen to you. Not even just you, you know, just like circumstances, like let's just say COVID as an example. So many people's
sure.
businesses, you know, just kind of totally went to rubbish, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, so you fell in love with finance. What about it did you fall in love with? That's really interesting.
Just the intricacies and complexity of just the markets and how they all are intertwined. I thought it was just fascinating how everything was linked. There's just so much to learn, right? And I love I think it's also important to note that my dad was a gold bug. So I was already exposed to that contrarian view as well, growing up on just central bank fallacies and the concept of money and questioning, you know, fiat systems. And
Mhm.
um, so between that and then what I was doing for my internship, the studies that I had in college, there was just so much material to learn. And once I'm in just completely committed to something, I just obsess over it and I try to understand everything. So that was really it. Just the amount of dense information available in the readings, and obviously you can make money. You know, through at one point I even tried to dabble with day trading and realized that
Okay.
that's not. It's too much time it required. So I just
It's
like
too
the
much
idea.
stress.
Yeah, it's too much stress. My emotions are involved. It's just
Yeah,
I've
don't do
never.
it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. So and then
S-
yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna say so. Like, so you obviously your dad had a gold background, which is really interesting, and we'll get to that. But like, given that you studied finance, did you feel when you came across Bitcoin that suddenly you had to unlearn everything you had learned?
Eventually, at some point, I had to just rethink through things. Yes, in a way,
Yeah.
unlearn. Yes, of course. Which I think that is an important, you know, for success. I think you sometimes have to look back on history and your upbringing and what was taught, and just question and think for yourself. I think is the most powerful thing any individual can do. So Bitcoin definitely aided in that process of just going back and questioning things and reading and understanding and thinking for myself, deciding for myself on what I think is the best store of value for my wealth. And I think that's, you know, at some point in time, any person that's with high conviction in Bitcoin has probably had to go through that path.
Yeah, I think the you make a really interesting point because that is one of the best things about Bitcoin in that it encourages you to question what you've already learned. And there are so many narratives that are just shoved down our throats. I mean, even inflation is an example. I've never seen so
Yeah.
much pro-inflation media recently.
Right.
Um,
Right.
you
It's
know, and
crazy.
it is, and we're just almost told to accept it. You know, you just accept what you're told.
Yeah.
And
And CPI is the best reflection of inflation, right? Like the idea of that, I that was quick for me just in talking to my dad and just seeing how, you know, they compute the CPI. It didn't necessarily make sense. And then early on when I started, you know, listening to Saylor and how he talked about
yeah.
inflation being kind of linked to the lifestyle that you want, right? What are you trying to buy? Like what kind of
Mm.
lifestyle are you trying to live and provide for your family? Kind of dictates also your inflation bracket in a way. And, you know, if you're just sitting at home and, you know, staying with your parents and not paying rent and, um, you know, just watching Netflix all day, like inflation's not too bad. You know, that's the example that he used. But if you're trying to buy a home and eventually have kids and send them to university for education and healthcare, it's like, well, inflation's quite high.
Yeah, it is. And it just, we were talking obviously earlier and we were talking about my book and everything that I have coming out.
Mm,
And like, I'm writing about inflation. And
yeah,
when I saw this pro inflation content coming out from the media, I was upset.
yeah,
Like I was hurt, you know, I'm just there like talking about how, you know, my grandfather was able to do this and now we have to work double to be able to even almost do that. And
yeah.
the same day you've got inflation could be good. There's a silver lining because, you know, salaries are going up. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, I think people, just because of their lives, people are busy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
unless you take the time to allocate learning more, you see a headline and then you just move on with your day, and they already have this conception of, okay, well, inflation maybe is good. I don't know. Oh, wages are increasing. I'm sure that's all true. And they just go on, and they don't know and understand that you're demanding more of my time and
Mm-hmm.
resources to consume the same amount of goods, and or do the same and consume less. And once people understand that, and just the relationship of time and money, then that's when you kind of just eventually, inevitably, right? That's what we all say, gravitate towards Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of it though, because like for me, it's not Bitcoin in general. It's kind of like this slave mentality I feel
Hmm.
that we're taught, in that you know, trading time for dollars, like that's a
Yeah,
big one,
right,
and that's something that everybody feels that they have to do, and you actually don't.
right. A salary,
And
right?
yeah,
It
salary,
goes
yeah,
back to rich dad poor dad philosophy. I've been
yeah,
just seeing him pop up a lot lately on my, just the Instagram reels and everything. And
yeah.
he talks about just as soon as you take a salary, and unfortunately there's people that where they lack the drive or just direction, and and how to provide financially for themselves or their family in other ways. Like it's a good way of making a living, but it's not the only way. And once you stop working for money, unless your money work for you, that's the ultimate solution for success.
Yeah, and I feel like Bitcoin is wrapped into all of that, and we'll get to it. But I was tweeting actually yesterday about how the 9 to 5 is a scam, and I got a
Yeah.
lot of backlash for it, right? And I don't mean it straight up. I get that obviously some people have a 9 to 5, everybody's different, it's whatever suits. But for me, that's not the issue. It's that you're just not, in this day and age with inflation, you're just not going to retire in the way that you deserve to retire by the time you deserve to retire
Yeah,
with that
yeah.
9 to 5.
I think, yeah, because the 9 to 5 was accustomed to, gosh, the Fed fund rate being so high, right? At some point, you could place your money in fixed income and get 15%, or to place it in a CD and get 5%. And you had only had to work 9 to 5 for X amount of years, and then you retired and you lived happily. And unfortunately, I don't know if that's the case. Like that's what I said early on, and when I made this decision, it's like regardless of your views on Bitcoin, like just overall, you look at the current economic environment, like what asset class right now do you trust to provide a positive real yield, right?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, for me, obviously, I think the asymmetric trade that Bitcoin offers is unparalleled to any other asset. And but yeah, it's quite sad. I mean, the stat too. Also, it's if you had $1 million pre 1971, I think it was in 1971. Now you need like I think it's like $6.5 million to have the same equivalent purchasing power,
Yeah.
and that's crazy. That's over 50 years, and and that's just in the U.S. If you look at globally, people are experiencing inflation rates that are exceeding way faster than the U.S. rates are, right? And it's really sad, honestly, and I think that's also why that's everyone says Bitcoin is hope. That's what we mean.
Yes.
It's hope. It's sound money. It's available to all. It's not just domestic. It's a global play.
Yeah, absolutely. And like just even outside of finance, I'm a very political person. So just like with everything that's going on geopolitically right now,
Mhm.
I find comfort and peace in Bitcoin, and that it is opting out of the system. But with all of that in mind, then how did you first hear about Bitcoin?
Yeah. So, kind of funny story. When I was an equity research analyst at the time, I remember the firm had a subscription to Bloomberg magazine, and they would just sit on the
Mm-hmm.
desk. And I remember just having a little bit of a break and grab the magazine, and they started talking about blockchain, Satoshi Nakamoto, this anonymous creator of this peer-to-peer electronic payment system. And it just, I quickly could link it to gold. That was
Okay.
something that I started to digest. But unfortunately, it was, I think, 5 days. It was like at the end of my summer internship before camp started, my last year at Mizzou. And
You're
once
so
that started,
American.
yeah. So once that starts, it's like 5 a.m. to
Yeah.
9 p.m. for 30 days, and then you start the regular season. So as we all know, I think unless you have skin in the game, unless you put capital into it, like you're probably going to forget about it. You're not going to be invested personally, emotionally to learn more. And unfortunately, I think the price was $750 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my first exposure to it, but never bought it. And just over time, I think it's also important to note that I was teammates with Russell Kuhn with the LA Chargers for 3 years. So we would have really good conversations just in the training room, locker room, just in between meetings. And I always appreciated his contrarian view that a lot of Bitcoiners have, right? So that was the beginning process where, okay, like it makes a little bit more sense. At first, I kind of couldn't get over the volatility of it, I think, as a lot of people do. And because you're kind of thinking, oh, well, it's supposed to be just a currency. And I think once you start to see there's levels to it where, how about store value? Let's start store value there. And then let's see, once adoption happens, once, the price kind of stabilizes as it appreciates, the whole Bitcoinization aspect, if that happens like over time, then it's definitely going to be used as a currency. I could definitely see that happening, but it could be, okay, yeah, it's volatile, but then there's how many countries out there right now that don't even have opportunity to be banked and have any type of currency that's not being deflated away at 15% month over month, right? So once you started thinking like that, then it just made me want to really dive in and learn more. And just through time, my conviction grew, but it really didn't get to the level of where it is now until like November 2020. March 2020 was a big time. I started to learn more about it, but I was also just coming off an Achilles surgery.
Okay.
So I was pretty much putting all my time just trying to get healthy and to get back on a team. And then once I signed with the Ravens, I spent last year with them. And once I had a little bit of an injury on my ankle, I was out for a few weeks, had some more time on my hands mid-season. And that's when Bitcoin was starting to pop off, and just bought some, learned more. And then it's been, that's all she said, right? I've been completely obsessed since then.
No, it's good. I love it. Perfect timing as well. But you mentioned that it reminded you of gold, which is really interesting. Your dad's a gold bug. So tell me the train of thought. Do you think, you didn't go and put a bunch of money into gold. I don't know if you did, but you put it into Bitcoin, it sounds like. So how did you weigh up the difference between Bitcoin and gold? Like, what sold you on Bitcoin over gold? I'm assuming you're sold on Bitcoin over gold.
Yeah, I think if you look at stock to flow, it's superior. It's better. It's more transparent. This issue is right. Like, what are the asset class? Do you just know exactly what the protocol is going to be like for the next 100 years? I liked how technology wasn't in the game for gold the last 5,000 years, right? Like, that's such a big, that's such a long period of time, but short in terms of just the existence of the world, right? And when you start to introduce technology and what the effect of that is, and what you see going on with blockchain utilization, and then now Bitcoin, and then the layer 2, and then younger generations wanting to use it and adopt it and question fiat, that's becoming a popular topic, right? If you just kind of extrapolate that going forward, what is the use case for gold? Like, I don't know many people that are just, wow, I can't wait to get a gold necklace. Like, I can't wait to use gold. Like, I just don't see that trend continuing.
Necklaces.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah, no,
I'm joking. I'm with you. I'm with you.
But it just seemed like it was inferior in every category.
Yeah.
And other than track record. And this isn't 2 years, 3 years. This is 12 years. Still short in comparison to gold. But if you take a step back and just see just what's being built, the infrastructure, the amount of resources, and how it's becoming political now, and you see that trend, I see capital influx definitely leaving gold and going into Bitcoin.
So the gold thing is so interesting to me because I'm totally with you when it comes to the use case. Like, I love a good gold necklace, but that's about it. There's not much. I can't really hold my wealth in this little necklace here. So totally with you. But it's interesting because Bitcoin is so hard to sell to the older generation, especially over gold. But I feel like millennials, the next Gen Z, I feel like it's such an obvious sell. When it comes to portability and so many different things, the use cases of it. it's also fun. Like, I know that might sound kind of weird, but I do find it fun.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, I think, I mean, other than that the dynamic of the shift, family, it's like what there's no gold Twitter, right? That is
no.
equivalent to Bitcoin Twitter, right? Um, it's it's just different. I think
You're at
anyone
the
that
front of a revolution, right? Like you're at
right,
the front of a revolution and the
exactly, precisely.
energy is incredible. But does your dad get on board with Bitcoin
It's a
given
good
he's a gold
question.
bug?
It's been easy because of his
Okay.
attractive, what he finds attractive in gold. But then
Uh-huh.
there's also that hurdle of him just being older, right? He's, I think, now 71. So sometimes he just will get it. And I think it's so close. And then boom, he'll like have this question, but he's starting to understand it. He's
But
definitely
wait, what's his question? Like, where does he get stuck on?
usually energy.
Oh, okay.
And then just, I think, just the volatility in a way
Mm,
when you look at it on a short-term perspective, how does that equate to a store of value? But
mhm.
then I think it takes a lot of research and conviction to zoom out and just not be stomached by volatility in the short term any way possible, right? Like I think if you just look at it, a lot of people, unfortunately, they're so emotionally involved when it comes to money. So when it's going like this, it's, some people don't have you need conviction, I think, to just be okay with that. And it takes time. And he hasn't put the time other than a couple articles he's probably researched on his own and the conversations that we've had, but he needs more. But he's definitely coming around. He'll be orange pilled before 2022 for sure.
Oh, I love that. That's cool. No, I totally understand. My dad has been in finance for years. He's not like a gold bug, but he's in finance, so he gets the situation.
Yeah.
And when Tesla put their 1.5 or 1.6, I can't remember, billion into Bitcoin, I told my
Mhm.
dad, and his first response was, "Okay, you're gonna sell now." I'm like, no, now is when we hold really hard.
Right, right,
I
right,
was like,
right,
no,
right.
this is when we hold really tight. I was like, if we're
Exactly.
getting money from these kind of people, then it's incredible. But you make a good point. It is becoming so political. And a lot of people say that it's apolitical for a million reasons. I think it is political, but that's another debate for another time. But it's really interesting what's happening with El Salvador. There's so much hostility from so many different places, countries, governments, organizations, institutions. Um, I think it's so sad because like the country is just trying to make a better life for everyone by trying something new.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think it's unfortunate that I think they could link, maybe it's crime rate and just previous, history when it comes to El Salvador and just extrapolate that to like what the situation at hand is now. And like you don't know that, right? Like it's like I'm glad that Peter McCormick could sit down with him and understand and have a conversation because they're just trying to do the right thing and provide hope to the people. And it's unfortunate that some people can't wrap their minds around that. But to your point, like I think it definitely will become political. It's starting to happen now, and I think that will continue for the foreseeable future. But at some point, I do think it transcends politics. Like from my experience, I've never been in a room where I could sit down with like a hard right conservative and a very left liberal, and usually you're never going to come and see eye to eye, right? Like you're always going to
Yeah.
either not say what you really want to say or it's going to go to a really elevated argument. And I've been in the rooms where I've introduced Bitcoin and the concept of it, and it is pretty remarkable how there's some common ground there. I
Yeah.
think like I guess where the light kind of clicked for me, where it's like, okay, this is something that I think transcends politics. Like maybe I
Mhm.
socially, it's like I see, um, maybe Democrats and liberals would want to introduce, and I'm like, man, I definitely see the reform and need for that because it's sad. There's situations like that. But then let's talk about the solution, right? Like, is it expanding the money supply at even a higher rate? Is that what's better for those marginalized groups where the more wealth that you have stored in cash, like the more honestly you need Bitcoin. And it's hard right now because unfortunately, this is the way life works. Sometimes, those individuals don't have disposable income to just put in Bitcoin they don't need it for the long term, right? They might need it in the short term, and the volatility is something that needs to be explained to them, and they need to do their own research. But I would like to think that if they don't need it, at least for, obviously I would like to think 10 plus years for long-term investment, but at least like a 4 or 5 year, cycle. I truly believe Bitcoin is, it's hope, even more for those people that get to benefit from the appreciation and the fact it's not going to be deflated away.
Yeah, I think it is something which can definitely bring both sides together, but I only feel that way to an extent, because I don't know where you fall on the political spectrum, but my audience know where I fall. I'm very much like I'd be a Republican if I was American. Basically, I'd really enjoy Texas. We'll leave it.
Yeah.
But I just sort of feel that a sort of left wing or a democratic mentality would be to have more control, less freedom, more government intervention, more regulation, just more involvement. I just feel like Bitcoin is just like, from a philosophical standpoint, really anti that,
It is, yeah. No, you bring up a good point, because I kind of am just talking about just monetary policy and the issues at hand and what is the right solution. But yes, to your other point, I definitely think, when you talk about the left side of it, the Democrats, like, they definitely, it's kind of, the more control they have, the better, in a way, right? So that's where Bitcoin differs, because Bitcoin stands for freedom, right? Self-sovereignty, taking responsibility for, where you like to store your wealth, the keys component of it. What are you using for custody? Like, there's responsibility in that, but that's the beauty of it as well. And it's, yeah, I could definitely see how that's going to be some hurdle to get over politically.
So did you end up actually putting your entire salary into Bitcoin? Is that what happened?
Yeah. So the crazy story on that is, about 2 or 3 weeks after that, I ended up getting released. So right now I'm a free
Wait, what does that
agent.
mean? You ended up getting released?
Released meaning I got cut from the Chiefs at the time. So
you're gonna have to give more. I need more layman's terms. Remember, I'm not American.
Okay, released. So usually there's 90 guys on a roster initially in the off season,
right?
And then you'll work to 53.
Right.
Usually that they cut down from 90 to 53 from August in camp, which has always been the case. For me, I've actually never been released or cut, is the terms that we use. And 3 weeks after that decision, I ended up getting cut or released. So I wasn't on the team with the Chiefs. So when it comes to salary, it's I mean, I was getting paid already at the time. The checks that we were getting in the off season. No, I was getting it in Bitcoin at the time. So I already started.
So you were getting paid in Bitcoin.
I was getting paid in Bitcoin, but not just the complete salary that I would have during the season. So that's it was terrible. So but that's definitely the plan has never changed, and nor will it. It's for me, it's I just understand the game and the risk associated with it, and I kind of just looked at my situation, and the injuries that I've had, and the risk of injury going forward, and that was simultaneously, that thought was happening as I was exploring Bitcoin on a deep level. So then for me, it was like, well, how do I optimize? If I'm trying to optimize in every, facet of my life, like, how do I do it in compensation? And especially given the risk physically that my occupation demands. And that's where it was like, man, get paid in Bitcoin. So for me, if I'm, when I'm playing, I want to get paid 100% of my salary in Bitcoin. Like, that has never faltered. It's actually increased over time, because it's funny, it's been a little over 2 months at this point, but I look at like just the increase in my education and understanding of Bitcoin now, just compared in just two months time. It's crazy how much more I know now.
What do you feel like you've learned in 2 months?
It's definitely so. Initially, it was definitely looking at, like, from a macro perspective, what was happening fiscally and monetarily, and just the upside, right? The sound money component. And a big part of me wanting to do it too was I was getting really just, fed up and frustrated with friends and peers saying, well, I missed it, right? I missed Bitcoin, and I need to go buy Doge. And
They told you to buy
Or
Doge.
oh, no, they're saying or something cheaper, right? Anything that's cheaper because that means better value, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't make
Yeah. Yeah.
sense like that thinking. So
Yeah.
if you think like that, you probably just haven't done the research, right? Let's be honest. So
Were they telling you to buy like Shiba Inu? Was it
no one
Shiba?
was telling me anything. It was more so just as I started to talk about my understanding of Bitcoin and my passion for it. A lot of people were like, oh yeah, for sure, but I missed it, man. It's crazy, I missed it. I'm too late. Like I gotta go, do some other altcoin that's cheaper. So for
Yeah.
me, I looked at it as, okay, it makes the most sense to optimize for me in my life. My conviction's at a level where I want to get paid 100% of my salary in Bitcoin. But then also, it was an opportunity to be like, hey, I'm a DCA Bitcoin through 2022. You're not late. like
No, you're
long
not.
term, we'll look back and see that it was the right decision. I understand there's price action in the intermediate that's going up and down, and people think I'm a genius and then also an idiot, right? I'm cool with that because I understand the long term vision. My time preference is extremely low, and so that was definitely the initial thinking. And then lately it's been the morality kind of and the virtuous components of Bitcoin
Right.
that has been really cool. Yeah,
Freedom.
freedom,
Yeah.
sound money, kind of things that we've talked about earlier on in this episode, just on how it could be hope for other countries. It's not just Americans, it's everywhere. It's Bitcoin is hope for everybody, and
Yeah.
here's why. And it kind of just fell in line with my principles and the way my moral compass on just what I believe to be, providing to the world your energy, your economic contributions, your resources, and your value to get paid in something and it's okay to save too. Like we shouldn't be punished to save. Like if you look at history, just from the primitive ages, like we developed because we saved. We stored food for when we didn't know what would happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that is something to be protected, right? Property rights. And so that's been the latest kind of deep dive for me. And at the same time, as I'm going through that, it was so cool to see, El Salvador, obviously, and this following the Bitcoin convention with Jack Mallers and what happened there. And which is cool too, because I did a mission trip my junior year of high school to El Salvador. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was actually funny because somebody, I think I tweeted, it was like, just a reminder, El Salvador chose Bitcoin, not Doge. And people were like, I swear, these Bitcoin maxis, they don't know anything about El Salvador and they're just using this opportunity. They don't know anything about it. And at the time,
I've been.
Well, yeah, I just went up from Miami to Tampa to see my family. And I was like, hey, jackass, so glad I was able to stop home, put on like my El Salvador jersey that I got. And this kind of told them everything, how I've been there and saw the need for it and how people could benefit. And the people, it was a funny moment.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. Yeah. I mean, everyone's going to trash you online. No one's going to love you. No, people will love you, but they'll hate you as well. But yeah, so you make a really interesting point actually about saving. So this is my thing, okay? I feel like we live in this hyper consumer centric society where everybody is just buying and buying to get their next, kick of happiness, that sort of short-term gratification. And I feel like the volatility encourages you to bloody well save. Like I get paid in Bitcoin as well. And I was getting paid at $60,000 when Bitcoin was literally at its peak.
That's when I was getting paid in options too, yeah.
Right. So I've now lost 50% of my money. Yeah. And people are like, oh, are you going to sell? No, like I have to save now. Like I have to save because I obviously believe that it's going to go back up. I believe it's going to go to $500,000 eventually, even probably 1 million in the next 15 years. I wholeheartedly believe that. Otherwise I wouldn't dedicate my entire career to it.
Sure.
But it teaches you to save because I can't sell that. I can't sell that Bitcoin now. Otherwise I'm going to take a serious hit.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's,
you can't.
Yeah, right. Like how could you? Then it completely defeats the purpose. It's something that is a long-term play. It's unfortunately, we live in a consumption-driven economy, and the people just want short-term gratification, right? And I see that in my industry, right? Where, I mean, guys are making life-changing money. A game
Right.
would be making what some people maybe get in a lifetime.
Can you give me an idea? Like what is like an average?
I mean, on average, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, that's a good question. I don't know what the average salary is. I know I've been league minimum all of my career. I think people sometimes link the NFL logo to this. Everyone's a multimillionaire. That was something that was unique about my story too, was my conviction is I'm not just this guy that's paid and I'm just, okay, I'll do this, YOLO to the moon. Like it was, no, this is something that aligns with what I believe in. It was just a significant part of my wealth. But yeah, I mean, I would say on average, people probably make, I don't know, probably a couple million a year. Because if you look at the average, the median, maybe not, but like definitely the average is probably like, you can make 200K a game potentially. Damn. Maybe like some guys are going to make, 25 million in a year as a quarterback. That's like $1 million a game. You have guys making probably 3 to 4, what might be the average maybe. But then the bulk of the league is league minimum. I think at least 40% of the league is undrafted free agents. Correct? Don't hold me to that.
I won't quote you.
But yeah, I think, and that's kind of what the more I thought, like how, man, as long as you're being smart with your money and you can cover your short-term expenses, like the risk reward of the game and what we're getting paid as league minimum, I thought, wow, the need for Bitcoin is even higher for those individuals like myself. And how long-term you'll see, wow, I didn't just get paid league minimum. I got paid a lot more. Like, I know it's so easy to say, looking back, if I would have bought, right, 5 years ago, how much money, especially with the growth that Bitcoin's had. But I think I would have, I think after taxes, I think I ran the numbers just using the average price over like the season, the daily price. I think it would have been like $7 million more than just being paid in fiat. And then you just keep going down that. And that's kind of what led me to my point earlier, where if you have significant amount of your wealth in cash, then the more need for Bitcoin that you need. Like I couldn't imagine going through 2020 sitting in cash. And I know so many athletes that just, whether they have advisors or this themselves, they just hold cash. They hold cash and they put money in risky venture capital and PE deals that typically don't pay out, and fixed income that's paying negative real yields, and have expenses that exceed their income. And then they stop playing. Insane. And then they continue that lifestyle. And then that's why 78% of NFL players go broke within 3 years.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. 78%, did you say?
Yeah.
Roughly. Yeah. I won't quote you again.
Yeah. I think you can honestly quote me. I get scared, right? Because like now I have a platform, people will just rip me apart. But I'm always that was definitely, it was something that, it was a broke 30 for 30 doc.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it was talking about athletes and just basically what I just explained. And I would like to think, since then we've been aware of it and like to make better financial decisions. We're cutting expenses, deploying capital smartly. But let's say you save, as we all know, in this economic environment, if you're saving cash, then you're destroying wealth, right? And you're making the American dream that much harder. Sure, you're making a lot more money, but if you're looking at this preservation of wealth, it's all relative to your individual circumstance, right? Like there's so many better ways to optimize than this holding fiat right now, because savers are getting punished. Like that is very clear, regardless if you believe in Bitcoin or not. Holding cash is trash. Like I think that's starting to become more widespread, which is also another reason why I'm bullish on Bitcoin adoption, as younger individuals are just becoming aware of that and seeing, okay, this isn't, the best, solution for me. I need to invest. And I look at the properties of Bitcoin versus real estate, fixed income, and equities, and I still see Bitcoin being the better outcome.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think, but I'm with you. I think, we live in a society whereby inflation is a real problem and we're not really taught about it. And I think that's really unfortunate. And I think that, the rich know that you need to invest in the stock market, invest in property, whatever it is. And here's my thing. I just feel like the average person doesn't understand how on earth to do that. And for once we have something, it's so easy, and it just, you can create real wealth. And with inflation that we've seen over the years, I remember even like 10 years ago we were having a conversation about inflation and how my generation won't be able to get on the property ladder and all this stuff, but your grandparents were, and
Right.
this whole conversation. And I just feel like we finally have something, like we have something to not make us feel so screwed by the system. But that's really interesting what you said about the players. I actually had no idea that around 78%, did you say?
Yeah, that was the latest stat that I saw. It could be dated some. Hopefully it's better. But yeah, I think it was like 78%. And then I think it's maybe 60% for NBA athletes
insane.
because they make quite a bit more. It's
So wait,
it's unfortunate. It's sad.
It is. So, but do you, given you're now super in love with Bitcoin, I wasn't gonna say Bitcoin maximalist because I haven't asked you about that yet. I don't know how you feel about the rest of the space. But given, you found Bitcoin and you're happy and everything, do you have plans to educate your teammates, other players? Have you tried? Have you had much backlash?
Yeah, no, that's my passion. Obviously I have a great opportunity with athletes because that's where I have connections with. That's my friend group, right? That's who I've operated with and been an athlete, professionally for 5 years, college since 2012. It's my life. And there's a huge need for it. But anybody, like my passion is making Bitcoin simple for all people to understand it. But yes, athletes for sure. That's definitely, so I always, as we said earlier, when I was studying, thinking Wall Street, and then when I got in the league, it was like, okay, do I want to go work that kind of a life? Maybe it's just, I'm analytical, but also leveraging the personality and just being able to communicate with people, and maybe like, being a financial advisor for athletes. And as I've, understood Bitcoin more, it's been, okay, what's the need for, how can I basically combine all of it, the intersection of professional sports, finance, and Bitcoin? Where is the overlap? And that's where, whenever football ends for me, which it will, like this, it will end from now, I still have so much life to live. And just,
I think you're
changing the
hang on. I think
Bitcoin,
I think your internet is cutting out. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's me or if it's you. I don't know if it's me or if it's you. Maybe you guys can let us know in the comments if Sean cut out for you a bit or whether it was me. Did you see me okay? Like, did I freeze?
Yeah, no, you were fine.
Okay, mate. Oh, you're back anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where did you lose me?
I kind of just got the whole, this is your passion, you're going to help educate more people, bring more people into sports, and then bring more of your fellow sports players into Bitcoin, and then I lost you.
Yeah. So basically this, from my history and what I kind of thought and what I'm going to do now, the overlap of football or professional sports, finance, and Bitcoin, how can I, given my understanding and my knowledge and passion for it, help other athletes, help people, and just explain to them the idea simply, and provide resources and just be an aid in preserving their wealth. Like, that's my passion, and it's exciting. And
it's like a humanitarian mission.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, I definitely want to just, my next career, whatever that is, like football obviously was, there's so many opportunities to, whether speaking engagements or doing a camp and being a light for kids, to, be a mentor and show, like, by example, like, the dedication and sacrifice and work ethic needed to be successful in sports. But, beyond that, it doesn't necessarily check the box, like, what I want to do next, like whenever that happens, right? It's like, I want to do something that isn't for money. It is because I'm making an impact positively on the world. And eventually the money will follow that based off the value that I bring.
Wait, so this is what I was going to ask you though. Wait, let me just jump in, because this whole conversation, I've noticed you have a mentality, which is, I need to have something. something after, you know, whether it's in case of physical injury, so you got your finance degree, you know, whatever it is, you're always thinking ahead, which is super smart. So once, you know, say your body's tired, no more NFL, what do you want? What's the goal? What would you like to do? Because clearly you have quite an entrepreneurial mindset, you have a humanitarian goal. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
Because you're still, you know, you're like 28.
Yeah, I'm 20. Yeah, 28. So I'm young. Yeah,
yeah.
So 28. But yeah, like, I mean, to what we said, like, it's not a plan B, right? Because plan A doesn't work plan A doesn't work if you have a plan B. But you can definitely,
it's an extension.
You can utilize. They're the same in my eyes. They've always been the same. I've used football to get a free education. I've used football to expand my network and have an opportunity maybe to get opportunities on Wall Street that maybe when it come to a person that just, you know, didn't go to an Ivy League school, there's definitely been transferable skills in being a professional athlete that apply to any industry. But yeah, like, I know if you look at history, anyone that thinks you're just going to play forever, and hopefully you play enough to be financially set, and then you can really just work on the humanitarian component of it. But that doesn't happen for every athlete. And, you know, to our early point, unfortunately, even guys that make millions of dollars, they still are not set because of the lifestyle that they live. So what's the overlap? It's just allowing them to be financially free and preserve their wealth and just be a resource for them in education and provide the resources to do that, right? And I think that the best investment vehicle is through Bitcoin. And yeah, so my next endeavor, it's definitely going to be something surrounding Bitcoin. Like I said earlier, it was always something that had to do with, you know, wanting to be a financial advisor, but it's like I can still do that and then now introduce Bitcoin within the exposure within the portfolio. Because now at this point, given everything that's happening, the infrastructure, the politics getting involved, the amount of money, the upside, just look at what's happened. If you don't have exposure, it's now you're not doing your fiduciary standard, in my opinion, to your clients by not at least having some percentage of your wealth allocated towards Bitcoin. And it's all based off risk and current expenses and what their just financial picture, their mosaic looks like, would kind of dictate how much exposure they have to Bitcoin, right? And I'm passionate about that. And I know that there's definitely something next. And if it's, you know, like you said, I do have an entrepreneurial mindset. And if it's not that, then it's falling in line with a company that I will just go through. Sorry, I don't want to cuss right now, but go through a brick wall, you know, that leader, that CEO, that founder, almost like a player's coach, the coaches that I've had as an athlete. Like, I know the difference between somebody that's a dictator that just doesn't bring out the best in you, or somebody that's like, man, you check the box and everything that I would want to do, and you have some opportunity that I can provide value to. Let's go do this, and wake up every single day with that mindset. So yeah, I'm not, you know, that's all the thought that's been towards it, because I'm a professional athlete. Most of my time and resources go to being ready to play on Sundays. But yeah, whenever it does, and that's next for me for sure. I'm excited about it too, because it's, how could you not be? I mean, look at you. You get to do this every single day. I'm sure you're ecstatic every day, right?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, for me, it's just game changing. Like I have this thing where I don't like to follow hierarchies. I don't like to fall into line. I'm very much my own person. And I love what I do so much because it means that I can do what I want on my own terms. And Bitcoin has allowed that at such a young age as well, you know. If I compare where I'm at to where some of my peers are at from school, it's worlds apart. Bitcoin has allowed that. This whole industry has allowed that. like I said earlier, you know, I think like the climate right now is the geopolitical climate is just absolutely nuts with all these lockdowns and everything. And, you know, Bitcoin for me is just like, so I find so much comfort, you know, and so much peace in the fact that like you can really opt out of a system. Like there is something, you know, and we've got CBDCs coming. And I think they're going to be awful. They're going to be terrible. And they're going to have a whole marketing campaign behind them. And this is I don't know, it's really, really cool. And I say to my mum like all the time, I say to her, I'm so blessed, I'm so happy, I'm so grateful to be at the forefront of this revolution, because it's in line with everything, you know, that I believe in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm blessed to say the same, and be kind of the earlier pioneers within the athletics spot, you know, the space. And but also there's so many good people. That's what I've realized too, just in this time, like even leading up to Miami, but then after, it's like the amount of great people that I've met. It's so crazy. Like the smartest individuals and the ones that want to do good for the world. It just seems inevitable that you eventually spend time and go down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin and just get it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? And it's been really cool to experience that. And I'm excited to, you know, continue doing that.
Yeah, that's the thing, especially because you end up meeting so many like-minded people, and it's so refreshing because, you know, your mentality can be of a certain way and you don't understand why the people around you don't see the world the way you do. And then you find this community and everybody is so driven and sort of sees things the same way. So yeah, it's truly amazing. And I absolutely love what you're doing. I love that you've got this plan, you know, after it's the humanitarian mission, you know, I really respect it. So I want to thank you so much, Sean. It's been such a pleasure. I've honestly learned so much about you, from you, your mission. And I think it's so great. Before we head off, do you have any last final words?
No, just, you know, thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome to tell my story, and people can find me at Culkin22 on Twitter. And yeah, no, it's just, I'm blessed for the opportunity, and just do your own research. That's what I tell everybody. That's what inspired me to make my decision. If I could just, you know, cause somebody to sit down and spend an hour or two and not just reading headlines and formulating opinions based off that, like really just think for yourself. That's it, right? And then max your conviction, you know, with how much money you have in it, and just go from there.
Totally with you, Sean. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you to my sponsors BlockFi, Luno, and Compass Mining. We will see you all next week. Bye bye.
See you.